Alright, so today is just going to be a dev vlog where I'm going to be restructuring slash rewriting a project I've been working on for school. So I'll go ahead and show you what the project looks like right now and explain what it is a little bit, and then we'll see why it needs to be restructured and all that. I'm gonna log out here. So it's just a system here where for a county or like a statewide science fair, we need to be able to judge projects. So that involves different entities. We've got judges, projects, students, schools, all that stuff. Everything you might need for that. That's kind of the requirements we have. This is the system we have right now. So let me go ahead and show you. I can just log in here. Okay, so there we go. This is a little dashboard. We have different presentations, so this is like a temporary thing I've put here so the teacher can go in and see the different forms without having to go through all our flows. But this is just like the dashboard, so if a judge logged in like the day of the fair, they could like check in and out. They can ask questions, if they have like a question they need answered. Hopefully we can like give them all the info they need right here. But this is just supposed to be like the first thing they see and it's got all the info they need. They can check in and everything. So I did this with an entitlement system. So instead of having like a judge table or like an admin table where admins manage judges and stuff, I just have users and operators can have different levels of entitlements. That way I can mix and match them. So for example, this account that I'm logged into right here, I am both a judge and an admin because I have both of those entitlements. So I can see pretty much everything in the system, which is great, especially for development. And that's a real world use case. You might have a judge who's been doing this for 10 years and he knows enough about it. He can be an admin and help manage it, right? So you'd make him an admin and a judge. So that's a real world use case. But if we go to admins here, we have just some fake data and everything. And this is pretty much what every table looks like. You've got entity, whatever that may be, management, and then you can edit that. So I could change this person's name, Ashley Harris Sr. I can go back to the admins. And then all the profile is a read-only version of that form. You click this, and now it's a editable version of that form. So he's a student, or I guess that doesn't make sense. He's a doctor, sure, whatever. And then you can, of course, delete them. In order to delete them, you have to confirm. I got that from like the GitHub thing, right? You confirm to really make sure you want to do this because it's destructive. But it is destructive and it isn't. In this implementation, we don't actually get rid of that user. We archive her, but you can always find that user again, make them an admin for this year. The reason we don't get rid of them is because they want a history of past years. So if I completely deleted this person's record from the database, that would not allow me to see what she did in 2018, 2019, whatever. You couldn't see archive data from previous years if I got rid of the entities. And there's different ways we could do that. But what we did is we created a user year record table, and we match everything back to that. And then for different years, you can have different operator records as well. And I'll show you all the database, and hopefully that makes more sense here in a second. But yeah, pretty much everything else, you've got students, judges, schools, got all this stuff that you might need for the science fair. It's all the same, right? Some of them have links to other things, which is nice. Oops, let me go back here. But at the end of the day, it's all the same thing. And project, entity, management, and create a new one, whatever. We do have these new neat features for entity creation on demand, which is cool. So if I need a new booth, I'm searching for a booth 125 or 24, 25, whatever. It's not there, right? So I could do 125 and create it there, but that actually won't work here in this field. What you have to do to create a new booth here is 125. Save it, that gets created, and it gets added here. Now, if the user just typed 126, this isn't going to work. Well, it's not going to work for a number of reasons. Let's just fill this in first. Let's see what we can find here. Chemistry, sure. Okay, so, oh, that did get saved there. So that shouldn't have worked. We haven't, I guess, even put in guards in place for that not to work, because that's not a real booth. If I go to view all projects, and now I try to go to this, wait, how's that work? What? View all booths. Is 125 here? It is. That. Okay, I didn't implement that. That must have got created, which is neat. Okay, cool. But like, that's an example of like the craziness going on with this project. We're not even sure like what works and what doesn't because we have different implementations. So for example, you just saw this way of creating new entities on demand, but what about this way? So this way of creating new entities on demand is the default is to create this stuff right here. But if you want to search for an existing user, now you don't have to. But if you want to create it on demand, you can. So that's the second way. This was actually the first way, but we have even another way of doing it, and that's seeing if you go to judges and go to edit one of these people. This is the last way here. This one could create things on demand. So if I want to say botany, it's already something. So botany 2. Um, um, maybe that doesn't work. Maybe I've got it backwards. Maybe the other way does work, and this one you have to click these modals. See, that's what I'm talking about. We have inconsistencies all over the place. We have more inconsistencies with this right here. You can have multiple things right here, and when you start typing, you saw, it searches for you from our database, which is cool, but that is a different implementation than the one that we use here for like schools or whatever. It does the same thing, but this is a different tool. This is jQuery autocomplete plugin, and the other one is a tool called Select2, which is really neat, and honestly, we should probably be using that in all the places. But yeah, all these inconsistencies and the fact that these are all identical calls for two things in my head. We need to make everything consistent and the same every time. So what we need to do is basically build these all as components. Hopefully it's pretty easy to see how this should be a component. When every single management page looks like this, it just has a different set of fields and things like that. Now, two things I thought. The first thing is, I don't know if anyone has ever used Django before, but Django is pretty awesome. They have a concept called like model forms or something, and so you just create a model, and then you create a form or you create a page, and you just tell it the field you want, and then you structure those fields. It's a very declarative thing, and it's all server-side rendered. The problem is it's Python, and our teacher wants us to use PHP. While she said we could use other languages, it seems like she only knows and is familiar with PHP, so we should probably stick to PHP. So I can't go the Django route, even though that honestly would be perfect for this scenario. I mean, it would be perfect. But we can't do that. So the other option is a front-end framework where we do client-side rendering with something like Vue or React, Ember, Angular, whatever. And I like Vue, so that's probably what we're going to use. But we just create a component, pass in the props that then generate this. Props for what fields to grab, what to call them, how to display them, if they should link or not, all that stuff. Maybe we'll use slots. Vue has a concept called slots where you can customize what exactly gets put there. So we can make a really great component here, I feel like. So I think we're going to use Vue there. And then for the back end, currently, and I'll go ahead and get into this here. So this is my iCloud schoolwork. Server side is the class. It's on a system called Corsair, and it's called HSF, that you can see right there. So I'm going to open this up with PHP Storm. At the same time, I'm going to open Data Grip. Of course, it was opening on different windows, but that's fine. Just pull them over here when they're loaded. Oh, there we go. Loaded. No, that's not what I wanted. Everyone's like, use VS Code. VS Code loads so fast. Yeah, well, I can wait 60 seconds for all the power that JetBrains IDEs give me. So, alright. And I try to load them two at once, which is not working. Okay, what is going on? Why is my snap tool not working? Normally I can oh, there it is. You have to wait for the window to fully load. That is super annoying. There we go. Okay. So I've got them both open here. These are a bunch of queries. Yay. We just did a presentation and tons of stuff wasn't working, so I had to fix things live in front of my teammates. That was fun. But hopefully they don't hate me for how long all that took. But here's the crazy back end. It is, a bunch of PHP pages. We've got management stuff over here, forms over here, archives. I started doing the archives, which is pretty much just management forms, honestly. And I could show you that if I go to Judge Archives. Oh, we don't have any judges that are archived. Yeah, I'd have to generate data for that. I'm not going to do that. But it looks just like the management pages. But it's just a bunch of PHP pages. Some of them have some logic at the top. That's kind of stupid there. There's some check-in logic. management has deletion logic. Forms, of course, have a bunch of form logic here. And honestly, it's a good structure we have. We've got good helper classes here that we're using. Um, it's all copy paste. It's repetitive. So it's not very dry. It is and it isn't. It isn't because we literally do the same kind of thing, just like different. Obviously, creating a booth is different than creating a user or creating a judge. Creating a judge entitles creating the user account, creating the operator account, creating or adding the entitlement to that new operator account, attaching a user year record from the operator to the user accounts. So it's obviously more involved for different things, but it boils down to just different logic, but in the same order. And then down here, we include things sometimes. This is like the form fields for this because we use this in modals as well. So we need to be able to pull it into this main form as well as the modal form, which the modal form up here in components, new booth, you can see we pull in those fields here as well. And then I have like a JavaScript loader and a modal loader, which makes sure that all our modals and JavaScript scripts get added at the bottom in the footer, which is great because you don't want to, obviously be loading things in the middle of your pages. I mean, we could defer them, but this is like a nice clean solution. So, use the form fields, nothing special here. It's not a terrible architecture, but it's big, and it shouldn't even be this big because it doesn't do that much yet, and it's all repetition. It's a different entity, same thing. Slightly different logic sometimes, but different entity, same thing. So the idea here, and I've already messed with creating an API. You can see that folder there. The idea is to write the backend as a RESTful API with PHP. Use a front-end framework for client-side rendering with something like Vue probably. And I created a framework called Frame. It's all right. It's not bad. It does well. So I try to structure it kind of like Express, where you pass in, you get a request and a response in this anonymous function here. And you can do all your logic in here, all your database stuff, app.post, app.get. Those are all posts. Here's some gets. So it works. You can get query parameters, post body data, which is all in should be in the request here. Yeah, so if it's a get, obviously there's no body for a get method, but in the case of a post request, PHP allows you to get all the post values, then I add them all as keys, sanitize them, and then, oh, nope, here we go. I pulled off the query parameters and attached those to the params key for the request. So I tried to structure this after Express. It was a fun experiment to do, but it is lacking in a lot of things. Obviously, there's better frameworks out there. Laravel, kind of huge. I wouldn't want to use that for this project, and I can't actually. Can't even use I think it's called Lumen, their lightweight framework, because let me SSH here into the server that I get to use, called Corsair. I always struggle to remember the exact URL here. Yep, that was it. I may have to, nope, I thought I might have to use a VPN. I do not. Okay, so here we go. You're going to love this. PHP version 5.4.16. 5.4.16. And they're very much aware of this because the last time they messed with it, obviously, was 2019, and I was still very much outdated. I don't know why it's like this. I'm sure there's a reason. The reason may not be completely stupid. I may be kind of stupid for not being able to think of the reason, but oh my gosh, that's, what's the current version of PHP? 7. Yeah, that sounds right. 7.4, 7.3. So I don't think we even have like types in PHP in 7.4. Also, like nobody supports it with like frameworks. That's why I wrote my own. But I did find the Slim framework, which is nice here. This looks nice. I've got my parameters, my app.get. That's awesome. My function with a request and a response. That's awesome. Arguments as well, which is probably these, I think. Yeah, it looks like it is. So that's awesome, right? Problem is, let's go to user guide, installation, 7.2 or newer. Crap. Well, they do have different versions over here. Okay, so let's check version 3. Installation, 5.5. That still won't work, which is super annoying. So go back all the way to version 2. Obviously, I guess version 1 was too crappy. They didn't even keep it up here, which understandable. I wouldn't keep that version of my framework I just wrote up here either. It's lacking. But this is much different. I don't have a request and a response. I echo things out, which is just, ugh. But okay, that's fine. Let's see. How did they do it here? Can I see here an overview? Response, get body right. Yeah, see that's better. I would like response.send just because I'm used to Express, I guess. But version 2, yeah, echo things out. So cool. But they have different types of routes. Cool. I'm only going to use get and post. I could do stuff. They even tell you here how to override the methods for forms, for JavaScript, which is cool. But my teammates are going to be doing a lot of that stuff, and I'm not going to push anything new on them that they don't need because a lot of the stuff they'll be learning is already new. So get and post is going to be fine. Custom routes, so that's like using it for multiple things. Yeah. But I figured like the first step is to like kind of go through this documentation, make sure I like know how it all works, especially because like this documentation is so small. I could go through all of this in like an hour.